the executive director of Resilient Ecosystems, and this is episode 2 of the Steps to a Human Future. I'd like to start today talking about um, a lie, essentially. The most successful lies, as you've undoubtedly heard from news and everyone else, is a big lie that is a challenge to known truths, but is so big and audacious that we hold it as true when all other facts tell us it's not. That lie is even more potent when people start believing it over actual truth. And I would argue that we have that situation going on now and have for a very long time, multiple decades, in the case of the U.S. government, corporations, and everything we relate to as media sources. Now, this is not to denigrate media; it's vital. It's in our First Amendment of the Constitution. Um, but understand, it's owned by corporations, so we are going to have a bias, except for maybe PBS, a bias towards the reporting and what we see. Add to that in the new culture, it's about clicks and attention being paid. So we're only going to see those things that are going to get our attention immediately. And so we don't get a contextual news source that we used to get. Now, I know that this episode is supposed to be about the neighborhood connection, and we're going to get there right now. But I just wanted to start with that so we could draw some context from that as well. So, one of the issues about a big lie is that we don't have the time or the energy or the willingness to check the sources. More importantly to that, when a great deal of people believe the lie, we are challenged to actually look for anything because it's an accepted truth, and we don't want to be the one bringing the truth to the table. Makes it very hard for all of us. Okay, so neighborhood connection. One of the things about connecting in a neighborhood level is that you start talking to people and learning their experiences, and you listen to them and you hear their stories, and you'll find common ground. Places where you interconnect with some of your experiences, or at least with the empathy about their experiences. And as you get to that point, information starts coming through that will probably remove power from the lie as you build personal relationship with a person. And the way to do this is to stay away from the lie, and focus on the truth of humanity, the truth of connection. So why is this important? Is because if we're going to change things, and I think people watching this know that we need to change things, we need to change them from the bottom up. One of the great lies is we are told that it works from the top down. I would challenge anybody here, and please fill my comment box with examples. I would challenge anybody to show one example in all of history where that was the truth. One example of where human change for good came from the top. And I will put one caveat on there: came from the top without the masses demanding it, because that's a bottom up change. Okay, so why focus on the neighborhood? Because it's an obvious unit. It's an obvious group of people that have, in this world, not much connection to each other, and not, they're all living independently in their own place, separate from their neighbors. There aren't very many neighborhoods anymore. Certainly not in big cities, probably more in the rural areas where you learn to cross support with each other. But in the cities and where most people live, there isn't a lot of connection in our condominium world with our neighbors. So why should you bother to get out of your comfort zone and connect to your neighbor? Because who's closest to you when something bad happens? Your neighbor, right? You can pick up the phone and call family. They may be in the state, they may not be in the state, may be close, they may not be close. But what they can do in a situation is limited. Your neighbor, on the other hand, is right there. And if they know that you will be looking in on them as they look in on you, that you will be helping them as they help you, you have a social contract with your neighbor. So develop the social contract by getting to know your neighbor. That's why you should do this. Is it that cut and dried? No. Building a relationship actually builds connection on a human level with your neighbor. This is why the Kitsap Resiliency Project, and actually all of the Resilient Communities projects, start off with a neighborhood ambassador who we train to connect with other people, to overcome the dissonant conversations, to stay away from the great lie, from politics, from religion, from social status, from all of the things that create divisiveness when having a conversation with your neighborhood, and focus on the human things. Because as you focus on the human things, you find you have more in common than you do not. So learn to do that and learn to work with your neighbors. Do this by starting a garden in the neighborhood. If you start a garden in the neighborhood, then people benefit from it. And not everybody, the whole neighborhood isn't going to go, yay, let's do a garden. The neighborhood will, some of the people in the neighborhood will engage in that because they're already doing it. And it's just an expansion of what they do. But not everybody will. Over time, and all of this is in the context of time, over time, people will benefit from the garden and get more interested in participating in the process as they get food. And food prices are going up and up and up. Food availability is going down and down and down. So creating food locally is just a good idea. As you develop this over time, people will be engaged and you will start having different conversations about connectivity, things that don't work, things that do work. And some of those things you can start to change even as small a group as a neighborhood. But if you get many neighborhoods together and they go through a democratic process of bringing a representative to the other neighborhoods in a larger group, and you go through the same process of finding what's important, what's not important, and communicate back and forth between each other, you find yourself suddenly have a grassroots network. And that grassroots network can definitely make local changes that are necessary, providing food security, water security, changing the way that the corporations look at delivering customer service to you in power, internet, and everything else. It only changes when we come together and demand a change. And if you start at the neighborhood, that's a nice, simple block to start creating that. Is everyone going to agree? No. But if you focus on the things that benefit all of you or most of you, you can do some powerful, powerful things. That's me for today. I will be with you next Monday. I will try and be a little closer on time, but that's not always easy. And enjoy your day. I will talk to you soon.